Going Under is a dungeon crawler which takes place in a world where failed tech startups turn into dungeons filled with monsters. And in the game you play as Jackie, an intern who is tasked with perusing these dungeons to find out what makes their demonic energies flow. Although they're randomly generated, each level features its own theme, its own set of enemies, and traps that define their very being. In this video, we're going to talk about how Going Under takes a very familiar format and puts its own twist on it to keep it interesting. But before we go any further, my name is Dan and welcome to my YouTube channel. I like to talk about all sorts of games, good and bad, and if that's something you want to hear about, then do me a favor and subscribe.
Delivery for Jackwelly.
Overall, Going Under has a great sense of humor that's in the writing and also in the way it represents the tech industry and its different little cliques. You'll venture through the fiery offices of Winky Dink, which was a dating app but is now an infestation of imps and fiery demons that want to kill you instead of date you. And then there's the company called Goblin, which seems a little bit like Google and Monster.com combined. It's an office filled of web designers and web developers and programmers, people who drink a lot of coffee, and it just so happens to be that the boss of that level is a very big coffee-infested ogre, which I also found to be hilarious. So you get it, Going Under is funny, but is it a good game? Is it fun to play? So with that, let's talk about some of the things I think Going Under did well. Specifically, these items are things that Going Under does to set itself apart from other games that use randomly generated dungeons, and in my opinion, makes the game stand out. And the first thing I want to talk about is the game's perks, and that is to say the modifiers you find throughout each dungeon as you step through them. Temporary gameplay modifiers are a fairly common trope found in games that feature randomly generated dungeons. However, my least favorite thing about these modifiers is that they're gone when you lose a run. So you'll find something you really like, and if you lose, you don't have that modifier anymore. You have to start over. But Going Under has an approach which allows players to find perks and eventually use them permanently. So when you verify a perk, which is to level it up and unlock it, you can pin it before the start of a dungeon. I found this to be a great way to feel progress in Going Under, because you find perks that you really like and you know to use them, try to keep that run going until you eventually verify that perk, and then the next run you do, you can pin it and start over with that perk on. I found this to be a great way to break up the monotony and to try new builds, to try new perks, see which ones work for me, which ones don't. And ultimately, it added some consistency to an otherwise pretty random game. I mean, the game's levels are all randomized as you start them, so to have something that you can control really gives a sense of control as you play through the game. Another way that Going Under removes some of the randomness and gives the player a little more control and progress is the mentor system. As you move through the game's story, Going Under's cast of characters will start assigning you tasks to take with you within the dungeons. And while some of these tasks might take more than one run, you'll eventually unlock the ability to assign these characters as your mentor. And upon taking on a mentor, you'll unlock some abilities that are specific to that character. For example, you'll unlock a mentor named Fern, who is the resident flavorist at Fizzle, which is where Jackie works. So when you unlock Fern as your mentor, you also unlock the ability to find cans of Fizzle throughout dungeons in Going Under. And sometimes Fizzle will freeze enemies, sometimes it'll heal you, and sometimes it'll just blow up and hurt everybody. But ultimately, I view the mentor system as not only a really helpful way for me to feel progress in the game, but also associate better with the characters in the story, which actually brings me to my next point about Going Under. In spite of the fact that Going Under takes place in a world where failed startups turn into demonic layers, I found it really easy to relate to these characters on both a human level as well as somebody who's worked in the tech industry themselves. Character development is subtle and it's really powerful as things move forward, and when big things take place in the story, I actually cared about what was going on, not only for the character's sake, but also Jackie's role in everything. One thing I found really interesting about this game's story is that it seems to move forward up to a certain point in between dungeon runs, even if you do fail. And while that did create a bit of a detachment from the story and the progress in the game, I still enjoyed seeing something change in between my failed runs, because there are going to be a lot of failed runs as you start off. But my point is, in between dungeon runs, I found it very nice to just talk to the characters, see what they were up to, and also see if they had any new tasks for me, which would then help my mentorship program. All in all, Going Under does a lot to breathe a breath of fresh air into the sometimes monotonous genre of randomly generated dungeon crawlers. As far as the game's overall presentation goes, the art is really nice, and the music has me thinking I might pick up the soundtrack. It's really catchy, and also very important since you'll be hearing the same songs on loop for a while since the game's got randomly generated dungeons. You'll be playing the same thing over and over again, but that's okay because the music is really good. And And the controls are fairly simple to pick up, but ultimately, if you're gonna play this game, play it for the perks, which are really fun and give you progress, the mentor system, which associates the gameplay with the characters, and the story, which is just actually really good. So whether you're about to buy Going Under, you're not sure if you want the game, or you've beaten it, do me a favor and comment on this video. I love talking to you guys about these games, and Going Under is no exception. If you like this video, if it helped you decide to pick up Going Under, do me a favor and like the video. It's a great way to let me know that you like the video. And ultimately, if you got a lot from this video, if you want to see more things like this, do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. It is the #1 way to support my channel and let me know that you like what I'm doing here. Thank you very much for using your time to let me talk to you about Going Under. And just one more bonus note about Going Under, if you'll indulge me. If you're in the tech industry, or if you're related to somebody who's in the tech industry, or if you know somebody who is, you're going to enjoy this game a little bit more than most people. And that's just because these jokes are very on the nose. I mean, come on, coffee addicted goblins who make websites and apps, that's me. That's me. That level's all about me, okay? You need to understand that Joblin is my life. So, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.